Up until this point, we've been doing nothing but pivot tables. Now, the counterpart to a pivot table is what we call a pivot chart. And a pivot chart is nothing more than just a graph that's based on a pivot table. Pretty straightforward. What we're going to do here is a series of about 4 different charts on 4 different pivot tables that I've lined up here for us. And we're just going to make pictures out of our numbers is what it really comes down to. So the whole idea of a graph is that if you're just staring at numbers, that's one thing. After a while, you can kind of figure out what you're looking at. But when you have a chart, it kind of adds life to it, and it makes it easier for people to, a lot of times, to understand what the numbers are all about and how they compare with one another. So each of these pivot charts that we're going to be doing are all going to be based off of, again, the pivot tables that are all based off of our data that we've got here. So without further ado, let's do the first one here. So first thing you do in order to make a pivot chart is you need to click somewhere in the data. Now, if you've done graphs before, just on regular Excel data, you have known that you had to go ahead and select all the data that you wanted in that chart. Well, in this case, all you have to do is just click somewhere in the pivot table, and that's all you need to do for selection. The next step is we're going to go over here to Analyze. This is over in the pivot table tools here. And we're going to go over here to Pivot Chart. We're going to go with a column type chart, and more specifically the clustered column. It's already selected for us, so all we have to do is just hit OK, and there it is. Now we can take that, we can kind of move it over, just like that. Maybe make it a little bit taller to try to fit, the dimensions of what we have in the pivot table. And this on itself would be fine. If you just left it like it is, it would work perfect. Most people could look at that and get some idea about the numbers, but we're going to do a few options on here just to make it look a little bit better. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to move the legend to the top. All right. Now to do that, when you're clicked onto it, I'm going to kind of move over here just a little bit here. You'll see the this little element button pop up here, and when we click onto that, it shows that the legend is being displayed. That's what the check mark's about. But if we click on that little arrow, we can actually change its position to being at the top, just like that. So just by doing that, what we've done is we've made a little extra width there to kind of work with there. Still keeping this pretty confined, but still getting the detail in there. The next thing that we want to do is when you look at the legend, it shows that the revenue that we're graphing here, let's kind of move this back over a little bit here. The revenue is in blue, the orange is the profit, and the commission is kind of gray. And it's hard to see it, mainly because those numbers are much smaller than the revenue and profit. So therefore, if the height kind of dictates the value, these are pretty short. All right, and that's a problem because it just doesn't really demonstrate very well what the commission is. I mean, nobody's going to know what that is. I mean, they can look at the tops of the other bars and kind of get an idea of what those values are, but overall they can't really see that. And especially if you're trying to figure out who is the rep that had the most in commission, let's say, right? It's hard to see that, or the least amount. How about that one? Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to change the graphic of that bar to being a line instead of being a bar. And we're going to give it its own what we call y-axis, which is what you see here. We're going to have a second one over on the right-hand side. So we'll go ahead and just click onto any one of the bars that we have. Go up into the Design tab up here in the Pivot Chart tools that you'll see here. And we're going to tell it that we want to change the chart type. So we click onto that. Now, we clicked on one of the bars. It didn't really matter which bar you clicked onto. It would have gotten to the same spot here. And if you look at the commission, that's the gray one here. it's now a clustered column type bar here. So we're going to change that to being a line graph, or a line, graphic. And we're also going to give it a secondary axis. So it's going to have its own y-axis over on this side. So we click onto that. All right. We hit OK. Not bad. So now it's easy for people to see that what we did as far as commission for each of these reps that are in here, how it went up and down depending on who it is, and they'll see the y-axis here. Now the problem is that they might get confused as to which one's which. So what we can actually do is change the color of the line, all right, and then whatever that color is, we'll make it the color for this as well, and that way people can associate the color, all right? Now to do that, all we have to do is just click on to the line, just like that. We go up into the Format tab, all right? We go to the Shape Fill, and let's say we maybe go ahead and make that black. That'll be the little pointer there. And then we're going to go ahead and change the shape outline to maybe red, or maybe like a dark red here. So we'll click onto that, and that really makes it stand out. Okay. Now the next thing what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll change this. All right, as far as the coloring goes. So while we're on that, we go into the Format tab, and we can go ahead and click on to whatever color we want to do for that. Well, in this case, probably having a matching color would be good. And if you wanted to make it, let's say, bold as well, what we'd have to do is go back over to Home, hit the bold button there, and that'll make it kind of stick out a little bit more. And then the other thing is, on the other side here, we'll leave this the way it is as far as the color goes, but we'll make that bold as well to make that kind of stand out a little bit better. All right? So there's a couple things for you. So that's pretty easy to do. Now the other thing is, it's when I look at the actual numbers, they're in pretty much in the scale here is kind of like in the millions. All right, we're going to kind of reduce that a little bit by doing this. If we point to, let's say, the one on the right here, and I double click it, all right, go down to where it says Display Units down here and change that to, let's say, thousands, or even we could go with millions, all right? But we'll do it with the thousands. So click on the thousands, all right? Now by doing that, see what it did there, all right? And we can do the same thing on this side. Just double click that again because I collapsed it. Go back down to where it says none here and change that to thousands. Click away from there, and there you go. So that kind of cleans that up a little bit, makes it easier to read. The other thing has to do with the bars that we have and the width of them. They're pretty skinny. That's just how they come as default. If we point to any one of those bars, double click it, it opens up this panel here, and we can actually change the gap width. Now right now there's a lot of gap, all right? If we reduce the gap by just dragging it back like this and then let go, then you'll see those bars become a little bit wider, a little bit easier to see. Now I'll just kind of close that up. So there we go. So nice little pictorial to our numbers. Very easy to read, very easy to discern what's going on with the numbers here. Now, what's kind of interesting about the graph, or the chart, however you want to call it, is it's all controlled by the pivot table itself. So if I go into the pivot table and I decide that I want to maybe filter down to just a few of the reps, not display all the reps, but just a few of them, I could go to here and click on a little drop down, and then I can go and hit my select all, and then I can go and find the people I want. So let's say I want Hendricks, I want Jagger, and I want Walther. So I click onto that, those three. Hit OK. Thus it reduces the pivot table and thus reflects the same way onto the graph. And there it is. So pretty interesting. You can also control the filtering from this button right here. So on the rep, I can click onto that, and I can go back here and I can just clear the filter from the rep and get it back to what we had. Now another way of filtering, we kind of talked about this in previous videos, is using the slicer. So the slicers are like a visual filter. It gives a little bit more flexibility as far as filtering, because the filter we just did there only filters on whatever field you have in it. So if you wanted instead maybe to see the sales that these reps had made based on a country or based on product or anything else, we're not going to be able to do it right now because of the fact that we have the only that one field in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the slicer, and I'm going to do that by clicking onto the pivot table there, hit Analyze, hit Insert Slicer, and the slicers that I want to bring in are going to be the zone, the order date, and let's say the country. All right, so it'll be those guys there. Now go ahead and also too, if we wanted to maybe even do the rep, because we have the rep control from here, we can still control from here too. So we'll bring in the 4 of them. Hit OK. There they are. And then we have to kind of figure out where we're going to put these to kind of make it easy to control. So maybe we'll just kind of do it from here. So I'll take the rep there, give it about maybe 4 columns, bring it out like that, and then bring it up like that. There's our first one. Maybe take the zone. That'll be this one here. Make that wider and change the columns on that one. And then we have the maybe take the order date and then increase the columns on that one. Maybe too much there, but do something like that. Okay, and then we can change the size on that. There we go. For the country, maybe we could do on this one, we can maybe take it and put the country underneath here. Make it wider. You can go all the way across like this even. And then go ahead to the options and really go to town with this. See? Can we fit all on? Oh, almost. We can get away with that, but I think maybe we'll just go with the, we'll make it look like that there. All right. So that's good. So by doing that, now we've got a pretty powerful little system here. So at this point we can say, oh, I want to see just atoms. Well, there you go with atoms, right? If I wanted to hold down my control key and choose Jagger, Peacock, Tsuyama, Zollers, there it goes. Now I can go ahead and clear that filter just by hitting the little button right there, and it goes back to square one. I can then say, let's look at Africa. Let's look at Europe. Let's look at Asia. And that all automatically changes. If I clear that off, it goes back to square one. I want to see just 2026. Click onto that. There's 2026. I want to see 2025. I want to see 2022, control key, 23 and 24. Let go of the control key. Look at that. Clear the filter. I can go down here and say I want to see Argentina, control key, Canada, Congo, and France. Let go of the control key, and there we go. So what a great little system there. And what I really like about the slicers as well is that it gives me a visualization, so I can say, well, out of these 4 countries, which are part of these 3 zones, I had these reps participate, but these other 3 down here, being grayed out as they are have made no sales in those 4 countries. That's what we can surmise from that. So pretty slick. Okay, let's move on to the next pivot table. And that's going to be this one here. Now, the difference between the two, other than, you know, the fields, and obviously that, are the fact that we've got multiple fields in here. So we have annual, biannual, and perennial, you know, life cycle field items there. And then we have within that the bloom time, fall, spring, summer, and all that. So interesting. All right. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a similar graph to what we just did on that previous one there. So we'll go ahead and we'll click onto here. But the reason why I'm showing this one too is because of the fact that we've got multi-level here. We've got multiple fields, you know, for the rows. The graph will have a little bit different look to it, which is a pretty cool look. So you'll see it. So we click anywhere in here, go back to Analyze, go back to Pivot Chart. That's one we want to go with. We'll hit OK. And there we go. And then we can take that, move it over. There we go. Maybe make it a little bit wider. All right. And there we go. So the big thing I wanted to show you was how we have the annual, biannual, and the perennial, as we see here, as the main groups, and then we have them broken down into the threes that you see there. So very, very interesting way of you know, displaying, conveying the numbers. Now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll bring this down like that, and that's it. So at this point then, I might want to kind of do a little bit of changing, because obviously the commission as well is pretty pretty flat, because they're much smaller numbers than the other numbers we have here and other things. So again, what we'll do is I'll move over here just a little bit. That'll make the elements pop up there. And what I'd like to do first of all is get that legend back to the top like I like it. So we'll go over here to legend, hit that little arrow, go to the top. Does that, gives me a little bit more room there. I can click onto or double click onto one of the bars like that. And as far as that gap width that we did on that previous one, I'll bring this back like that. That'll give me a lot more width there. All right, that's good. And then we can kind of close that up. And then the other thing is I need to convert the commission into a line graph with its own legend as well, own y-axis as well. So I'll just click on any one of the bars, go up into the design, go to my change chart type, all right, go over to the commission, change that to the line and secondary axis, hit OK, and there we go. Not bad. But the whole point of this is just the idea that I've obviously got the numbers that I can look at, but I can look at the graph, I can look at this picture and see things a lot quicker. I can compare, you know, their revenue and their profit, you know, and all that within each of the you know, bloom times, and get some good information from that. Start some conversations with it. And again, you know, we're looking at the filtering, because we have now two fields. You'll see the two fields in the graph as well. So I might say, well, I want to focus in on maybe just the perennial. So I'll get rid of everything and just go with perennial. Hit OK. There we go. And I want to look at just as far as the bloom time, I just want to look at the spring. All right. So I can hit OK on that, and there we go. So I can really kind of narrow it down quite a bit. And then again, I can go back in again, either here or there, doesn't matter which one we go to. Go back in there and hit clear filter. Go to here, clear filter. There we go. And not to get too involved with it, but we can also add some slicers in there. So let's just say we want to add a slicer to show the years, okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll click back onto the data, onto the pivot table, go to the Analyze, go to Insert Slicer, all right? And we can go ahead and do the order date, hit OK, and we can do that. And we can put this, I'll make this wider first here. So do that. And then go ahead and put that little bit short there. Okay, so there we go. We can do that. And now by doing that, I can click on the 2022 and say, okay, those are the numbers for 2022, 2023, and so forth. The other option that you have with this, I'll just delete that, is go back in here, go back to Analyze, click on to the timeline, all right? And we want the timeline for the order date. And then go ahead and hit OK. And there's our timeline. I can take that then, put it down below. Maybe I'll zoom out just a little bit here. And then put that like about right there. Make it wider. And I can set this up for maybe quarters. All right, so that way I've got the years I can go with, or I can break it down. I can just say, give me the first half of 2022, and there we go. Or I can say over here, give me the first half of 2023, and just kind of select that, see? So that's another way of filtering your data is using that. Okay, now for our next one here, I'll go over to the zone country there. Now this has a little bit more data in it than what we've seen previous, a little bit more at least. Click somewhere on the pivot table, go back to Analyze, go back to Pivot Chart, hit OK because that's the one we want to go with, and once again, there's your graph. We can make it taller, maybe if you want to, or shorter, doesn't matter, whichever way you want to go. And again, it's a little bit thin, you know, the bar is a little bit thin, mainly because of the fact we've got a lot more data that we're graphing here. But still, we can kind of fix it up a little bit by going over to the elements and getting that legend back up towards the top. Gives a little bit more room there. Go ahead and click onto one of the bars, like that. And actually, I'm sorry. Point at one bar, double click one of the bars, sorry about that. Double click it. That'll open up the panel here, and we can then take that gap, make it a little bit wider, and we can close that up. And then the other thing is that we want to put that commission again on its own axis, right? So we'll click on to any of the bars. We'll go back up into design, change chart type, right? And then the commission, we'll change that to align its own axis. There we go. Pretty good. And then we can go ahead and make this wider. A little bit more room there if we want. Well, maybe not because we got that there. But that's, you know, whatever you want to do is fine. Now, that looks good. And then again, if you wanted to put in a timeline for this, we can go ahead back to Analyze, go to our Insert Timeline, all right, for the order date, hit OK, and then we can take that and drag it down here, make it wider, something like that, and then change this to quarters, and there we go. And maybe zoom out just a little bit, and there we go. So, pretty cool. Now I can go in there, I can specify that I want to see just the first quarter, first 2 quarters there of the year, or maybe the whole year. I can just do that. And very quickly, now anybody looking at this will say, oh, it looks like it's the 2022, all 4 quarters of that year. And now, last but not least, we'll go to our last pivot table here. Now, this would be an example of a lot of data. We have our product broken down by the life cycle and then by the actual product. All right, so there's quite a bit of stuff in here. All right, but we could probably pull this off. We'll see what happens here. So we'll just click somewhere in the data, go back into the Analyze, go back to the Pivot Chart, and we've got that. Now, when you look at something like this, this is pretty bad. I mean, it's just like, it looks like a bunch of little toothpicks. Hard to really discern what's what in there, all right? So a thought would be to, instead of having the three bars side by side, you know, the revenue and the commission and the bonus and all that, or not, the revenue and the profit and the commission there. How about if we stacked all three on top of one another to kind of preserve or free up some extra space there? So what we can actually do is go with the second type, which is going to be the stacked column. All right, a little bit better. All right, we'll go ahead and hit OK on that, and we get this. All right, then we can take this, move it over to the side there, and there it is. All right, now probably in this situation we probably want to make this a little bit wider just to be able to see a little bit better. But regardless of what we do there, it is pretty it is pretty thin. Now the bars themselves could stand to be a little bit wider. So if we just kind of click on any one of the, or double click on any one of the bars there, all right, we can then take that gap width and bring that in quite a bit, and that will help it, I think, a lot on that. So that looks good. Let's get the legend back up to the top here. So let me just kind of go over here, go to the legend, and put that at the top. That gives us a little bit of room there. And then the other thing is get the commission on its own axis. You know, that definitely we have to do, because you can't see it at all here. So I'm just going to click on any one of the bars. All right. Go back up into design, change chart type, go to my commission, change that to a line on its own axis. And we'll hit OK, and there we go. Now, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see this better here. But there it is. Now, it might help to maybe change the color of the line. It's up to you. Change the y-axis as well. But overall, great little graph. Again, it's questionable. It's right on the edge of, like, there's so much data here, it's a little bit hard to really see what you've got. And in that kind of a situation, you might say, well, maybe what I can do is reduce this to maybe just showing one of the life cycles. So I can go back over to the filter here and say I just want to see the biannual, hit OK, and there we go on that one. So it's a little bit easier there to see, and we can kind of go from that point. But it's up to you. So again, thank you for watching the video, and I hope that this will help you in your endeavors with painting a picture of your numbers. Take care.